Greetings everyone. In the last video, I'm going to open up this ink well here. I was playing around with the idea of perhaps creating my own dragon, as if I went to the hidden world myself and met some fantastic creatures, and I kind of got an idea as I was doodling around, and let me go back to it just for a moment. So it can be kind of messy at times. So I was looking at these sort of humanoid-like faces here, but it was this sort of three pupil, like triple eye kind of thing that was going on here that I kind of liked, and then I kind of turned it into this, which was kind of interesting. So a little more thought, and I'm going to see if I can expand on that a little bit and maybe come up with something. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens here. So firstly, let's see if we can zoom in a little bit and get this thing to focus just enough. Come on now. Now, with a lot of my doodles, of course, I like to start with the eyes. Now, of course, you don't have to do it that way. I do it that way because I don't pre-sketch. And so I want the focus of whatever I'm doing to be made on the eyes. Now let's see here. Just sort of creating a little bit of an iris around the pupils. I don't usually put the pupils in until after I've established the face, but I'm treating this a little bit differently. I go with some eyelids kind of right from the beginning as well. Now the sinus cavity I'm going to have here. It'll be kind of a flat-faced dragon. And yeah, I don't know. It's the way I'm seeing it in my head. Now instead of one fang, I'm going to go with two. Little tiny teeth here as well. It's funny when you see teeth like this. Do you remember, well, some of you may or may not, pardon me, it was a Hanna-Barbera character named Snaggletooth. I guess, you know, if you've seen the Ice Age movies too, having teeth like this where your mouth doesn't fully close, you might drool a little bit. Not that Snaggletooth drooled, but it might, you might talk a little bit differently. I don't know. don't have to have super intense eyebrows, so it doesn't have to be upset at the moment. But we are going to put in some pretty neat eyebrows. I don't want it to be too much like a sketch. I mean, this won't be a truly finished thing. So kind of like branches is what I'm thinking at the moment. There's no need of a truly spiky looking head. Now, I think I came up with something. I mean, I could flip back and see, but I think I remember. We had spikes out of the side of the head. Which in some ways could be growths out of the mouth. We'll do a duplicate set over here. But since the head's tilted just a little bit, it won't be out as far. So I think having it look a little bit more like an insect is an interesting thing. So I think in a lot of ways, when we think of dragons, we think of them a little bit more like reptiles or like birds. That could be a little more intense than I needed it to be, but we're not going for cute here anyway. Interesting. Now, as far as the neck goes, I would think that we're going to need a little distance from the body. Yeah. The idea that I have for how it's built would be a series, let's say, well, let me just sort of draw it out and see where it goes. Kind of like a lot of double jointedness in these upper arms here. instead of like the humerus here, and then, you know, the radial ulna bones, this could be a lot longer. Have a wrist joint here. Actually, let's go with something else. Let's go with double thumbs. Yeah. I don't know. It's good to come up with stuff kind of on the fly a little bit too. Yeah, let's say some part of the shoulder here could be very flexible. What's the distance that I have here? So that's where, if I put the arm there, okay, so it would come out about there. Although I probably could have gone through that way too, but that is okay. I will live with what we got going on. And let's have these fingers just curved ever so slightly. Maybe this one out just a little bit more. It's already kind of a strange looking creature. Okay. The idea that I have for, let's see if I can kind of make a bicep a little bit there too. It would require a segmented pectoral muscle. So you'd have, like, let's say 3 majors with, you know, accompanying minors. So you'd need one set for these appendages. Another couple for those. And this is where we're going to go wings. I'm trying to think. Oh, before I get too far into that, I saw this, and it kind of made me think. So you probably see these, depending on where you are, these type of seeds that fall from trees. So, you know, you can see them from like a sycamore tree, or like maple trees, or elm trees, or ash, for example. Sometimes they're called like helicopter seeds. Anyway, I picked that up. I thought, oh yeah, no, I'm gonna kind of use that in my brain a little bit, but not exactly. It's still going to be insect wings. We'll do some on this side over here as well. I didn't leave myself lots of room on this side of the paper, but it's all right. Just so happens I know the person who's doing the drawing, so we'll have to accommodate. Just putting in sort of like muscle striations. And then another set of wings here. That one kind of squared up a little bit too much back there. It's all right. Again, I know the person who's doing it. See if that kind of lock in a little bit. There, there, there. That's kind of interesting. Dip the pen. I'll kind of finish that up a little bit more after, I suppose. Now, what kind of a belly? So this is the thorax. But remember, we have something that has a spinal cord here. So like in the insect world, a lot of them have exoskeletons, right? So if this has its skeleton on the inside, let me think. I got an idea. So we'll let it have kind of a little round belly. And let the ribs kind of extend down just a little bit further here. And we'll have a little bit of a belly here. But we're not going to have a belly button because we're going to assume, perhaps, that this creature was born of an egg. So, no need for an umbilical cord. Next is to figure out the hip segment of this creature. And for its own sake, how we want modesty. So let's say actually the hip is sent in behind here, and much like these shoulders here, sent back that way. So instead of this being toothless, which it is not, we can have this be more of a tailless. Yeah, I don't mind that so much. But we're going to put in a few other I have another idea. So, what if this creature has kind of extendable, maybe calcified, extended and regrowable, kind of like knee pads? I don't know. So let's say that's where the knees are. Yeah. And then much like the forearms that we did up here, they can be super extended. So tibia here, and fibula back here, like that. Longer maybe? No. Yeah, a little bit longer. Like that. But we're going to create a different kind of foot, which I think we hinted at in the last video. So here off the bone on the side of the foot. Okay, what if we had another set of wings? Kind of like that messenger Mercury. exactly. So yeah, right off that ankle bone. Let's go with a big toe here. Now, in that last video, I kind of had this idea that perhaps it should have like a kind of like a scorpion tail, but since this one is a tailless dragon, we are not going to bother. It's just going to have little nubs for the other toes. It's kind of gross and awesome. Let me get a quick zoom in on that. It's not super zoomed in, but it's a little more zoomed in than the last. Something like that. Now we're going to do the other leg here, and let's see if we can head back out. Just a little bit. Okay. Now for variety's sake, I guess we could have that leg kind of, oh well, it's too late now. Maybe it would have been better if I had it brought in that way, but what's the length that I have? So roughly there, huh? Show the ankle bone there. But this one, of course, much like the last one, we have a winged ankle. And then although, you know, I could tilt the foot that way and then have, or no, let's have it go that way a little bit more. Actually, no, let's have that big toe kind of tilt up then a little bit. And it will go there. And with its fun and gross little toenails there. Now it doesn't seem as long here just because of the perspective. And to dip that pen. A little bit more heel like that there on that. That's pretty weird. Okay. So, let's talk a little bit more about what I expect out of this thing now, and then do some final finishing, so to speak. So, in my mind, the way this creature would move, and maybe I'll do some other little doodles outside of that, is, wouldn't it be interesting if it had learned to fly upside down? And that's kind of, it uses those eyes to sort of, engage multiple levels. And that these fangs here, they might look a little bit more like antenna. That'd be interesting. Let's get a look at that a little bit better. So yeah, it would fly upside down. And it could grab onto things, and that's the reason why it could be double jointed. And maybe these sort of hinged hips here, they can kind of join together, and then these feet can form that scorpion-like tail in flight. And these would be guides to help maneuver the creature in the air. That's interesting. Anyway, let's work on some of the detail-y stuff, and then maybe I'll draw like another version of this, but in flight mode where the legs are together. So let's zoom in, lock it a little bit, and I'm just going to add a little bit of detail or take away some of the obvious little flaws that I did. And that way you can add a little bit of shade where you need to. I don't know a color scheme. And I don't know how long I want this video to be either. But of course, as always, you can manipulate the video to go faster if you wish. That is entirely up to you. I may even say that in the comments or in the description. But of course, I'm doing this in real time. I don't fully expect that you should have to watch it in real time either. But if this takes an hour, that's how long the video is going to be. You know, in a lot of ways, this is a little bit more like a dragonfly because of the way those wings are set up. Whereas before I think I was kind of using maybe a little more bee-like. Anyway, so let's fill in the mouth just a little bit and hopefully not lose the teeth. I don't know what kind of a tongue. Hey, here's a fun thought. If it is kind of bee-like, but not really bee-like, maybe it can use like a, well, it's not really a bee, but anyway, sort of like a hot tar that it can light on fire. That'd be pretty intense. So rather than just like, you know, a methane burp, this can use like a sticky substance. But since I don't have a tongue, I don't know if it's necessary to try to draw something in there, so I'll just have it all filled in. Now that is the arm. This is the neck. So if you've watched me make videos, you'll probably notice that I'm not always paying attention to the camera, so sometimes things go out of focus, and I need to be better at that. I do have markers here though, so I am going to maybe find some different colors here and yeah, let's see what it can do. So the inner part of the arm, but this is kind of more, well, I don't know. This is the back of the hand, this is the back of the hand, okay. And make a mess if I can. Let's go with this being kind of orange. So I want to be able to differentiate these things a little bit. And go with yellow in some of the softer parts. So bicep, just a little bit of yellow. A little bit on the shoulders. A little bit in the belly here too. You know, since I did the feet kind of furry, I wonder what would happen if I did some part Yeah. It's kind of gross and I like it. Okay. So this is kind of an earthy green. And I'm just going to kind of work in a little bit of that. And we'll do some in the hands here as well. I don't know about the color of the talons yet, though. Maybe they could be that orange. They don't have to be blood red. A little bit in there, a little bit in there, a little bit in there. Just around the outside a little bit. Now we'll go back to this yellow. Just a little bit in here. I think that's kind of interesting. Now maybe kind of in a Guillermo del Toro way, when not in flight, of course, the wings that are on the front of this creature, they would fold up and kind of protect the belly, which would be a soft part of the creature. And the back would have, let's say, well, it's a semi-exposed spine and scales, let's say, back there as well, which would serve to protect the creature. But it does fly upside down, though, yes. Now, let's look at the face of this again. And I wonder what this blue will look like. So let's say I'm going to go with a little bit of blue around the eye here, which will just darken it. Little underside of the nostril. A little bit around the eye here as well. And how about inside the eye? Some of that blue as well. which for the most part will just look like shading. And we'll use that same blue just to get the base part of these fangs slash spikes. A little bit on the shoulders here, and then I'll go back. Let's get a look down at these legs very quickly. And we'll although those would be more the front, but we're going to put in a little bit anyway. The toe would be soft, or a little bit soft, I don't know. That's what I just did down there. And then we'll get to the green. You know what? Let's have these knee pad things. They can be kind of orange. With a little bit of this blue. And now we'll work in some of this green. Kind of on the outside a little bit. So feel free to comment. You know, if you were in the hidden world, far away from the Isle of Burke, what kind of dragon do you think you might find in there? Tell me about it. It's interesting. The next thing. So I'm just going to use a little bit more of this blue, I think. That's going to also be kind of like faking my way through what could be a semi-translucent wing structure. And add light purple to this hair, like substance here. So yeah, no, I didn't plan on any of this looking this way, I should tell you. I'm just kind of doing this off the cuff, as some might say. Let's have some of that travel a little bit. pen. Do just a little bit more kind of line work. But I think as far as concepts go, I'm kind of pretty much done with this. Last thing will be figuring out something with the wings, and then that'll be kind of it. A little bit of the green for the top of the toe. Now we'll darken that in just a little bit more on the outside. We'll add a little bit of the blue at the top, mostly on the underside of that stinger toenail. As I say, this is kind of winding down now. Get this side over here very quickly if I can. Well, I'm in no rush. What am I saying? Little nubs for toes over there. It's funny, as I've been getting older, I've noticed that my little piggy toe, the little tiniest toe, the toenail, is like barely there. Not that I was keeping track of the thing, it's just, yeah, no, it's like, it barely exists. I wonder if that's typical. For some people. I don't really look at people's feet. Well, artistically, I suppose I kind of do. Humans are such fun and funny creatures. Okay. Just a little bit there. Darkening those lines just a little bit like that. This is the thing where you could spend a lot of time really fixing things. My poor camera will probably shut off if I spend 3 hours on this, which I could very easily do. That's always the trick with this kind of stuff. Let's go with the smaller end. It's a two-sided marker. We'll work on those wings there. But I'm not going to go too extreme. Just kind of smudge a few lines. I'll darken those in after. But I think you might know where I've gone with the concept anyway. Now, I'll do a quick outline of the wings. Actually, let's back that out just a little bit. That way I'm not just chasing stuff around as much. Just in case, you're actually wanting to see where I'm going with certain things. Now, I probably could have left those kind of light. That is okay. I want them to be known as wings. That should be sort of obvious anyway. Those knee pads that are in some ways kind of like landing gear. kind of part of the landing gear anyway. Let's tilt the page. Final thing is just going to add a little bit of yellow to the face, but not a lot. A little bit here for... So in this case, I want the yellow to kind of represent some of the softer moving parts of the flesh, maybe. And then the green to kind of intensify some of that. All right, I think that's all we need to do with that for now. Let's see what happens if we back that out a little bit. So that's kind of a dragonfly dragon idea. And as I said, it flies upside down. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. But I don't mind that so much. All right then, folks. Well, I think after a little more than an hour, I think we're good with that. You know, hidden world dragonfly creature. So it has like scorpion stinger, giant big toe stingers, little tiny wings on each of the ankles, double wings, very flexible limbs as well. I don't know, it's kind of interesting. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, and hopefully we'll see you at some point in the near future. Okay, ciao for now.